Me this morning with the pros and cons of this case is Cezanne Oyger. She's a legal analyst and trial lawyer, and Vic Bajaj, who's a criminal defense attorney. Good morning to the two of you.
Good morning.
It is hard to separate emotion from law in this case, but we're going to give it a shot. Cezanne, first of all, give us some of your reasons why the hospital has rights here. You're going with that side of this, right?
Absolutely. You know, you really hit the nail on the head. In so many cases, and this is a prime example of it, you really do need to separate emotions from what is the black letter law. And in this case, the law in Texas, well, the law professor on there was making some arguments to go the opposite way.
Yeah.
As it's written, it is pretty clear that you cannot withdraw life support from a pregnant patient, a pregnant woman. So we were talking about this earlier. Had she not been pregnant, this would not be the issue.
Yeah.
But the point is, this child is 20 weeks. Just 4 more weeks, this fetus is at the point of viability. So that gives this child a 50% chance of survival. To take away, doesn't this fetus deserve every protection of the law as it's written? And while your heart really goes out to this family, the child does deserve the protection of the law.
All right, but our hearts do go out to the family, and the family has rights too, Vic.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm sort of biting my tongue as Cezanne is speaking. I, of course, respect her opinion and position on this issue, but she used the term patient. Here, we're not dealing with a patient. Under the Texas Health and Safety Code, a patient has to have either one of 3 things. That is brain activity through the brainstem, circulatory success, or respiratory success. All 3 here are not there. There's a marked absence of any of one of the factors. So we are not dealing with an actual patient. So I understand adhering to the black letter of the law, the black and white in the law. But even if you do that, and that's what the Munoz family is saying, we don't have a patient. Follow the law, respect the parents' wishes and the family's wishes.
But from my understanding from the story, there's a heartbeat. Somewhere, there's a heartbeat.
There's a heart. We're talking about the fetus. Is that what you're asking?
Yes,
the fetus has a heartbeat.
Yes.
So you have a life within a life. And while the argument is she a patient, is she not a patient? She certainly was brought into this hospital to receive care. She was put on a ventilator to receive care to save her life.
But the
and
law
what you need to,
does not protect the fetus. It protects the patient, which is the mother. So the application of the law to the fetus is an inappropriate
I think
application.
it's actually protecting both. And while there, obviously there's ambiguity, and the proper place for this is to take it to the court and let the court interpret it and decide and let us know which way the legislature intended for this law to be. Should this hospital fail to keep this woman on the current life support, 100%, don't you think we would get some sort of a wrongful death action? The hospital really is in a pickle. They're either going to get a wrongful life action coming at them or a wrongful death action.
Can we compare this to anything else? I don't remember a case like this.
We have an opposite case of Jahi Meth in Oakland here, where the hospital was making a great effort, a valiant effort to actually terminate the life support, and the family said, well, we will have to find a way to foot the bill and find an alternate location.
But they didn't have to do with pregnancy.
There we're not dealing with the pregnancy. But let me
Terry
also
Schiavo
point
in
out,
Florida for years ago, same type of issue.
Yeah, 10 years of litigation there, and eventually, she passed officially with the life support being taken away. But let me be practical for a second. I went to law school in Texas, and some of the things my professors used to tell me in Texas didn't ring true as a Californian. We are in a very conservative area in Tarrant County in Texas. This is a very conservative hospital, so there's a backdrop there of laws that reflect what the constituency believes. So I understand what you're saying, Cezanne, that perhaps the law is what should be followed, but laws are not always right, and perhaps this is a good invitation for the legislature to be very specific on the definition of a patient.
Where does this end up? I mean, it's only going to be a few weeks before this is a full-term pregnancy anyway. What happens in the meantime?
The patient will stay on life support until the court makes a decision as to one way or the other as to whether this hospital is following the rule of the law.
We're assuming that all this is being paid for by insurance, right? I mean, this could be, for a family, this would be just a tragedy if they'd have to pay for this when they don't even want it.
Devastating in the first instance with taking care of the, this lady who's going through this. Essentially, she's passed, and by artificial means, she's being kept alive. But let's look at a study done in Germany that the LA Times referenced 2 days ago in regards to this issue. The prognosis for the fetus is, unfortunately, as tragic as it is, deplorable. I believe 2 out of 30 fetuses in this gestational duration have actually survived past the 30 weeks after the birth. So it is deplorable. So we're not talking about costs only now. We're talking about costs and mental anguish in taking care of perhaps a child that could be.
But 2 and 30 is still a chance, isn't it? Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
there's still the possibility.
In 4 weeks, this child has 50% point of viability. She would not be able to have an abortion at this point. And I think it's also really, while I don't necessarily believe this case is a pro-life or pro-choice case, it's about following the letter of the law as it's written. She didn't have an abortion when she was alive. She obviously wanted to see this child go through. So I think let's get this child to at least the point of viability, allow the courts to step in and determine which way it should go, and then neonatologists will be able to better determine how this child is doing.
Right, but as you said, it couldn't be happening. It couldn't be unfolding in a state that is already complicated enough when it comes to.
And that's the practical
like
reality here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't see this in a less conservative state. And that's the reality that we're dealing with. This is an invitation to the legislature ringing their bell saying, let's define what a patient is. Let's be more specific so we don't have this situation come about again.
All right, Vic Sesson, thank you so much, both of you,
Absolutely.
for being on.
Thank you, Dave.